Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Freemium Podcast. It's 10 a.m. in Montreal. We're at Lord William. We got Joe Pilotte. We got Travis Champion of L'Orignal. Thank you, gentlemen.
How you doing?
Travis and I just met, and actually we go to, turns out we go to the same gym.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And you're a golfer.
I'm a golfer.
Farrell was talking about you, actually. I just put two and two together like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I did his podcast about 3-4 months ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's it about, his podcast?
I think it's like this transition from being sort of a young, crazy man into becoming a dad.
Okay.
And that transition, things that we have to sort of let go of, and things we try to, wisdom that maybe we took from our parents in order to become a better dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
It was a difficult one. I mean, the one thing I do struggle with most is this being a father. There's no doubt about it.
Do you have kids?
I have one. Yeah.
One kid, okay.
Yeah.
How old's your child?
He's 9.
9?
Yeah.
Nice. Does he play golf too?
He's about to sign
Yeah?
him up for the summer program at our club. So
There you go.
Yeah.
What club are you at, by the way?
I'm at Kanawaki.
Okay, Kanawaki's a super nice golf
Yeah, I
club.
live it there. Yeah.
You play? You keep asking me this year to play golf.
I play, yeah, but I'm not at a club or anything like that.
Or do you want to join a club?
No.
All right, so let's get into this.
Hold on. Let's go there.
Yeah.
What was that look for?
It is so much money to join a club.
Oh, okay.
And you know it. And it's just, I can't fathom spending that much money yet. I'm just not that good of a golfer to be like, yeah, I'm going to drop almost 10 grand a year on golf.
Yeah.
Not there yet. When you're good, I get it because that's like actually your sport. There's guys who play hockey in their 40s, 50s that are still on travel teams and drop a ton of money. So I get it but I'm just not good enough for that.
Yeah.
And there's some people too for golf. I find like it's it can be really good for business connections. That's for sure. It could be a really nice place to go and relax after work.
There's so many pros to golf,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But like I can still make those business connections at the Cog or Bellevue or
Yeah,
wherever.
that's true too.
I think the reasoning for going to a private club, it's first of all, it's super close to my house, so it takes me like less than 15 minutes from door to door.
Where do you live?
I live in Montreal West.
Okay, cool.
But the real reason is two. I need to get outside. Like I do not do well in winters. If I only get like a half an hour outside time, usually because it's too cold and just gross out, I'm not in my best state of mind. Whereas like with golf, you're walking for like 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
Outside getting fresh air. And it's also, the connections, the community that I have there. They're just a bunch of solid dudes. Much like this guy across from me, Joe would be an excellent addition to a place like that. But I get his reasoning. I do, for sure.
Yeah.
But I like that community.
That whole 4 hour walk thing is another great sell. Because like if you looked at your significant other and you're like, oh, I'm going for a walk in the woods for 4 hours.
Yeah.
They would never buy it.
Yeah.
But golf is exactly that. It's time with your friends and it's a nice walk and it is enjoyable for sure.
Yeah.
Should
It's
put my
like
phone in airplane mode.
and it's also too. It's like I love it. It's a love-hate relationship with golf, and sometimes you can get. It's the best sport in the world, and you're like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. And there's other times too when you're playing it, and you're like, wow, I have never been more frustrated than this in my entire life.
But you've been playing your whole life, right? You started playing as a kid?
Yeah, I started playing as a kid. Like I play a lot, but there are definitely days. There are days where it's absolutely incredible, and it's the most spectacular thing in the world. Like just being on the golf course on, let's say, a late Friday afternoon. You open a nice crisp beer. You hit a nice crisp shot. It's sunny out. It's the weekend. You're gambling. You're winning your bets. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vices in there.
Only for the golf course,
yeah.
though, right?
Well, on the gambling side, like I do not enjoy gambling in a casino. I think it's stupid because
you like making a wager with your buds.
Yes, like
difference.
if I'm gambling on myself, because it comes down to, it's not like the house has an advantage at that point there. So at the end of the summer, it pretty much all evens out because sometimes you'll win. We play with handicaps. Sometimes you'll lose. I'm definitely up in my career in gambling for sure, because I don't know. I just love gambling so much on the golf course. But no, it's because some people go like, oh, is that one of your vices? And I'm just like, I definitely have vices, but no, that's not one of my vices in like a casino or anything like that. Like I don't get a high gambling at the blackjack table.
No, because you're betting on yourself is the difference.
Yes. It's a competition at that point.
Yeah, there's a nice reward to it when your friends have to hand over a certain amount of money.
Oh, it's the best thing in the world. And I'm like cackling, I'll laugh, I'll make a couple of like comments.
And they're doing it to you and they take your money.
Of course. That's the best part about it. But
I think it's one sport too, more than any other, that you have to start young.
Yes.
I see it with all my friends who can that are in their late 30s, early 40s, and the guys who can still consistently shoot in like the low 80s, high 70s are guys who have been playing their whole life.
Yeah, it's almost like riding a bike, I find. So it's like in the sense that if you ride a two-wheeler, like you're never going to forget how to ride a two-wheeler. So if you play golf your whole entire life growing up, there's just certain things.
There's muscle memory there.
Yes, you'll just never forget. I mean, you're not going to, like if you don't play for 10 years, you're not going to go out and shoot in the 70s again, but you're not going to shoot 100.
But even to add what you're saying though, Joe, when it comes to golf and to what you're saying as well, it is a motor skill. But unfortunately, a lot of motor skills can be taught quite poorly. So you could still be in your 40s. Like I've played all my entire life. I didn't really start to take anything of it seriously until about 10 years ago. And I had to go through some pretty serious swing changes simply because I was just like you were saying, the latter part of being like super frustrated. Mm-hmm. It was so annoying. But I still catch myself reverting back to old muscle memory.
Yeah.
When things don't go the way that I want them to, it's like, I don't know how many of your listeners know golf, but it's like less hips, more arms. When it's more arms, I am slicing that ball so bad.
Yeah.
Where if I just get back to my new sort of swing, then when I develop and sort of relax into it, was why I love golf, because it reminds me very quickly, it humbles the hell out of me very quickly that I need to just stop thinking that this ball has to be destroyed. I have to hit it so goddamn hard so I can show all of my friends. And the annoying part is the slower, the smoother I swing a golf ball, the further that thing goes and the straighter it goes.
Yeah.
So that muscle memory thing is like I have to remind myself constantly, like I can't revert back. It's like, I learned to ride a bike, but for whatever reason I kept, slipping off the seat all the time or something like that, right? And got back on and tried to do it again and kept doing it and kept doing it until I realized that maybe I should get myself a new seat, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but golf. What a love-hate relationship. Definitely more love than hate, but there are definitely days where it's like the worst thing in the world. So what do you guys got planned this week? What's going on in everyone's life?
Golf,
yeah. You've been asking me quite a bit too. How's everything going with the Olde Orchard group?
It's going great, man.
Yeah.
Super happy. Just opened 2 new stores. I'll be heading up to Tremblant tomorrow. Spend some time at that one. So that opened in January, and then.
Are you going to stay there overnight? I would assume yes.
No, I have. Like when we were opening them, there was a lot of time away, but visits in and out. Tremblant's not so bad. It's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Gatineau's a bit further. It's like by 2:15 usually it takes me to get there, especially with the bridges being closed and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still make day trips because nothing's more important than my son. So I still try to get back to see him before he goes to bed.
Okay.
So I'll leave super early. We'll leave at like 6:30 tomorrow morning.
Do you guys have any plans in the future to open up more locations? Because right now, if we include Lord William, you're at 10, I want to say. 10 or 11?
10.
10.
Yeah.
And what's like the game plan moving forward?
If we get an opportunity, we'll take it. That's always been like our thing.
And do you have anything in the pipeline right now that you're able to talk about? Or
Yeah, I've never been that restaurateur who doesn't talk about opportunities. I always find it super weird. Like, obviously, if we're not signed on a space and we have a specific spot in mind, we're not going to talk about it till it's signed.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys won't talk about it till, like, the brown paper's down and, like, the sign's up. I've never been that guy. We would love to be in Verdun. That goes without saying.
Verdun? On Wellington?
Yeah, well, anywhere in Verdun, to be honest.
Okay. Why Verdun?
It's a great neighborhood. I grew up really close to there. I went to elementary school there. I have a ton of friends there. There's a great Irish culture surrounded around Verdun. It's the Southwest, which is, like I said, where I'm from.
Yeah.
So it's super vibrant, and it's somewhere we'd like to be. And besides that, we're open. As we expand through Quebec, obviously Quebec City is something that we would look at. And then personally, I'd like to one day start talking about Ontario.
Yeah, would you? That was actually my next question because it's definitely more of a, it's an Irish culture. I was going to say it's more English speaking. There are a lot of francophones that go to the pubs, but
francophones love pubs because there's so much in common. The music, the fiddle, stuff like that. There's a lot of things that go hand in hand, and the Irish and francophone Quebecois more than I would say francophones have a lot in common in the sense of being a working class and
Yes.
someone that was held back and stuff
Yes.
like that. So they relate on a lot of levels.
Wasn't it like that? So like around here back in the day, so because we were just talking about this a little bit earlier with all the manufacturing. This, the canal was the manufacturing center, the heartbeat of Canada at one time. Probably it's like over 100 years ago, but it was at one point. And weren't all the, that's why like the French and the Irish got along, because they were all working for the, I think it was like a lot of times they were working for like Scottish business owners.
Yeah, or British. A lot of British.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got along because they had the shit end of the stick. There's no other way of saying it. So they did the grunt work. They had the bad jobs. And what do you do after working a long, shitty day? You go for a beer. So this whole neighborhood, whether you go into Point St. Charles, St. Henry, Côte St. Paul, all around here, it was taverns everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So like now it's transitioned a little bit more to pubs, obviously, and we welcome women as we should.
Yeah.
So things have changed quite a bit. But yeah, like that end of work, having a cold one, stuff like that. That culture is ingrained in both for sure.
And I mean, even today, there's like, let's say, you know the area better than I do, but I lived in this area for like 10 years. I was living on De La Montagne and Notre Dame, and with Trevor Colton, and then I moved to Nordelec, just over here. Lived there for 5 or 6 years. So I was here for like 11 years. But where was I going with this? I was gonna say there's like a lot of a good restaurant scene around the area here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what the area became. It went from like working class Irish to industrial to restaurants, condos and restaurants.
Yeah.
That's what it is, big time.
What's your favorite restaurant around the area here?
Well, besides mine?
Yeah, besides yours.
Now, are we going west, or are we just staying in Griffintown? Because then, like,
good question.
Like 6 blocks that way, you have the Joe Beef family, and like, I love Liverpool and always have. In the Griffintown area, that's a tougher question for me.
I'll probably say Grinder's cool. I mean, the food's okay, but it's more you go to Grinder for the scene, I find.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on Grinder? I guess it's like.
Yeah, I don't go to Grinder. No.
No?
I have nothing against Grinder, but I'm not a guy who goes for the scene. So I've had really great dinners there, and it's awesome. But like,
so what do you go for?
Like, I'm not going to park my company pickup truck up front and feel good about it. Like, it's not like a lot about Grindr is about throwing those keys to the valet.
Yeah.
Why have I gone there? So I go there for business meetings. Like, we'll go there and grab a lunch and stuff like that.
Okay.
Pearl and Paddock's really cool, just up the street. There's a bunch of cool spots. Yeah. But honestly, for me, if I'm here enough, so I don't usually frequent Griffintown that much.
And right now, what is the actual, like, with regards to a pulse check on what's going on in the Montreal restaurant scene? Like, how is it doing from a macro perspective? Is it doing well? Because I keep always hearing from other restaurateurs, it's tough out there right now. Business is tough. It's not just for restaurateurs. It's tough for a lot of other small businesses. We do business insurance for a lot of people, and we're seeing like a lot of people just shutting down their business. More than I've ever seen in my career.
We might have a difference of opinion here, but I keep I don't think much outside of my business. Like I don't really, I just look at whatever Looking Out is doing. We're fortunate enough that we get a fair amount of American tourists, not just like tourists here to visit Montreal, but business here for conferences, whatever it might be. If the dollar remains what it is, we do really well. The dollar goes anywhere close to even, we're not going to be able to survive because we're just not a part of that bigger game, that status game that a lot of these restaurants play.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I think my restaurant's doing very well.
And your restaurant being L'Orignal.
My restaurant being L'Orignal,
okay.
Yeah. It's been around for 16 years, Old Montreal. It's easy to miss, but it's also once you're there, we've built it in a way that you don't really want to leave. It's just very comfortable, very warm. Staff is very friendly, that kind of thing, but we're not trying to invent anything different. We're not trying to reinvent a carrot. You know what I mean? Like, we're perfectly fine serving whatever it is that people are going there to find. So that being said, we do quite well. Now, compared to other people, I don't know whether or not they would see that as being a success or not. I certainly do, but I think a lot of other business owners, I'm not saying you, Joe, for instance, but a lot of other people probably look at that, the profits I'm making and be like, yeah, this is too much work for that. Call me whatever, but I'm quite proud of it, and I still love being there. It's been 16 years, and every one of us still love going there and hanging out. It's still.
How did you get started in the restaurant industry? Like,
I was in TV for about 5 years before,
cool.
Working at grunt work. Like, it was meant to be fun, but that's an industry that is just completely just full of these illusions of grandeur. There's only a few people that actually get any kind of notoriety and make any kind of money in that. Otherwise, you're grinding it out and grinding it out.
What were you doing in TV?
I worked for the last one I did was a home renovation show, and it was just catering to a certain demographic of people that really thought that they were bigger than they were.
Okay.
And it's like one of those sort of like where fame is like kind of halfway there, and they're like, sure, they're recognized, but they're not that famous, but they still felt like they were, and the whole world had to cater to a certain type of person. Now, I don't want to name any names. Obviously, you can tell I'm sort of beating around that, but at the end of that contract, I was like, I got to take some time off. So I took about 6 months off, and I just started thinking.
But like on the TV show, so you were the guy, like the character, or were you the guy filming?
No, I was. So it was a home renovation show. In this case, I was what was referred to as a unit manager. So I would ensure that whatever shots were being shot, that both an art team and the production team could meet up, and everything was there for them to be able to film that scene. I scouted locations in the beginning, and I was always the last one to leave to make sure everything was done. So obviously your home is being renovated. You don't want to leave it in chaos. So I would always have to make sure it was done. So I worked a lot of hours. I got paid, but they were somewhat thankless. There wasn't a whole lot of, it was just basically we finish one and then move on to the next. Yeah, and then
you got into restaurants.
I just wanted to do something where I did not want to work for anybody ever again.
Okay.
It just got to that point. And at the time, I guess we can mention this. My first restaurant was Garde Manger with those boys.
Okay, yeah.
Years and years and years ago.
With Chuck.
Yeah. Chuck Hughes. Yeah.
It's still there, Garde Manger, I think, right?
Yeah.
Delicious restaurant.
From what I'm told, it still does very well.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all new, and we all just basically scrounged together whatever money we could from our parents and whatever. And we opened it, and it was a flying success right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But there were too many cooks in that kitchen for sure. Yeah.
With regard, pun intended.
Yeah.
With regards to too many owners, I guess.
Yeah. Too many owners, too many different directions.
What's the sweet spot for owners? Because there's a lot of restaurants like that. If I look like I don't want to name names, but there's basically, I have a group of buddies, and for one of the restaurants, I think there were like 10 shareholders, which in my opinion is absolutely ridiculous. And 10 equal votes. Are like most restaurants like that? What's the actual sweet spot with regards to how many shareholders there should be? Because usually there's like a money guy, then you have the operator. We might have 2 money guys or 3 money guys, 1 or 2 operators. What's that sweet spot?
I'm in my opinion, I think you hit it there when you were talking about like sort of equal shares or equal votes. I think that's where it gets into trouble. You can have as many owners, in my opinion, as long as there's only a select few, call them experts for lack of a better word, that can actually do the job that needs to be done.
And they'll have all the voting shares.
Yeah, just making sure that things get taken care of. So in my opinion, you can have as many owners as you want, as long as there's only a few operators that are doing a really good job. So, but I still think that, I like sitting around a table with more people and having conversations about things versus it just being me or one other person. Chances are that other person, if it is just one other person, we're not going to see eye to eye on everything. And that's going to be a very difficult place for us to be able to come to decisions, Like every so often, even the business partners that I have now, and I love them all to death, we'll go at it every now and then, just simply because.
I mean, it's completely normal too.
Absolutely.
It's to have those discussions. I find it's actually almost important. If you're never having, I don't want to say arguments, but heated discussions, there's probably, or someone's probably not just being straightforward, and you're going to have differences of opinion.
Or they wake up tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it could just be something as simple as that. I know now that these arguments are never left with people just walking or storming out of the room.
Yeah.
We're just like, get over it.
Yeah.
We're beyond that now. So now we can actually have discussions about things. But to be honest, I kind of leave it to them. I don't want to get involved. As far as I'm concerned, they are the experts at their jobs. They're really good at what they do. We have a manager back there, and maybe he and I don't always get along on certain things, but like he is there grinding it out for whatever reason.
That's why I don't think it's a one size fits all answer.
Yeah.
Like every place is different. So to be like, how many is the sweet spot? Well, it depends how you operate, right? If you're a place that you need a lot of operators and you want them to be partners because there's that give a shit factor you get by someone being bought in, then you're gonna want more partners. He doesn't need that. right? So I think it's a case by case scenario.
And even my next one, if I ever do decide to get into something, and I'm always sniffing around, it won't be a lot of operators. It'll just be a few that know what they're doing, right? Where the money comes from, I really don't care, right? I mean, I don't want it to be dirty money or anything like that, but it's like, if the money's there to make these businesses happen, then we do what we can, right? But yeah, you're right. It's not. There's this trend that's been going on for sort of like the last 5 years of like, let's find some, I don't know how to call it. Let's find some schmuck and let's give him ownership of this place, or her ownership of this place. But yet they have such a little amount, and they work 90
hours a week.
They work 90 hours a week.
There's one group that's really good at doing that.
Yeah, and I
Which
don't like
group
that.
is that?
Yeah. I don't like that. I think that's kind of...
they take young guys, they exploit them for their friends, and I mean, it works for them. They're successful, but it's a weird industry, man. It's a weird industry.
It's
Like-
a status game, this industry. It really
Yeah.
is.
And to answer your question from my side, no, it's not easy right now, and everything's expensive. So there's sticker shock like crazy for every client, and it's not every guest that understands our expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing that I struggle with, and I'm sure you do too, probably even more, why am I paying this for this? And it's like, no, it's not what we're charging you for the burger. My rent is X a month. That would blow your fucking mind. You know, our staff prices are this. Minimum wage goes up in May again, and it's going to continue to rise. And at one point, there will be a point that we get to like those Toronto minimum wages where it's like 15, 16, 17 bucks. Once you're there, then you have to be paying your management X amount more. And then that means all your deliveries are more. Gas is crazy, which means your deliveries are more. Everything's insane. So that's our biggest struggle, is sticker shock for sure.
And then passing on those costs onto the consumer.
You have to.
And do you ever, because I've talked about this with the Tuck Shop boys and a couple of other restaurant owners as well. Do you ever eat into some of your margins, or you have your margins, you stick with them? Because there's always, like, from the side of a business owner speaking to these people, a lot of times they're afraid or nervous to put the prices up, like to pass all of their costs onto the consumer, because they're afraid that they're going to lose people, because they're going to go, what the hell, like, all your prices went up 20%. I can't afford to eat out anymore.
But again, like, I can't compare to what I do to Tuck Shop,
Yeah.
because already they're at like such an elevated level. They're
Yeah.
phenomenal at what they do.
Yeah.
And they can kind of almost charge what they want.
Yeah.
Like, they're not cheap, right?
No, they're
and,
not.
And
They're not.
they provide a great service for what they charge.
It's a fair price.
It's an incredible restaurant.
Yeah, so in my case, I have two things that work for me in that sense. People want the same thing from me, or from our restaurant. So we can shop around and find certain prices for certain things. We also have other things that are sort of expected of looking at, like these big bison steaks, let's say. We can charge whatever we want for those. If you're going to order that, you kind of know what you're getting into. So you're already walking and signing off on whatever that might be. But again, like I was saying before, we rely heavily on this sort of American tourist. And when they come in here and they're looking at a bottle of wine that says $150, and they're like, I can get that for what?
It's half
100?
price for them.
75.
Yeah.
So but yeah, locals. But I don't know. I've always felt that, and I mean, maybe that's just my insecurities back in the day, but I always felt like the one industry that people would kind of like roll their eyes at was the restaurant industry. Like, oh, it's just a bunch of kids out there playing business. Let's go and try and see if we can gouge them for certain extra prices here. And, we're a veg company and we think the potato should be this price instead of that now. So you're just going to have to pay it. You're just going to suck it up and pay it. I don't know. Maybe there's other industries that have to put up with that kind of up and down, back and forth, kind of like, where pricing can be so horribly gouged. Or maybe not, I don't know. But I just find in restaurants, it just seems that people just kind of like, where are we going to tax? Oh, just tax the restaurants. Just tax the alcohol. Just tax the food. Just make that more expensive, so it's going to be harder for them to do this or to do that, because they make so much money. But the truth is, Joe's right. I don't think I've ever, in my best year, have I ever pulled out more than 8%.
I was about to say, so when, like, to answer your question, when you're like, oh, do you guys eat in the profit margins? It's like, well, there's not much there. Like,
So, okay, when you say 8%, that's like your EBITDA margin, or that's like, let's say it's $1
Yeah,
million.
like
So if you have $1 million in revenue, example, you'll take out 80,000.
Let's just say it's what's left over at the end of the year.
That's your net income, or that's before taxes? That's after tax.
After
After tax, okay.
profit on the business, we all pay ourselves. Not
Yeah, of course.
massive.
There's like the
So,
salary.
so there's
part,
like that
but-
10 to 15, like you're running a really good one.
Yeah.
Some of like these wine bars, and then obviously like nightclubs and something like that, you're going more to 20, 25.
Okay.
But like a regular everyday restaurant that isn't like, a Joe Beef of the world, you're like hoping for a 10% margin of the world. Now again, pub game, everything's different, right? So you can't, it's not a one size fits all. But to answer your question, there's not much margin to eat into, but you do have your loss leaders.
Yeah.
Like the Old Orchard, people freak out about our wing price. They don't hit our margin, not even close.
Loss leader.
It's a loss leader. And you can't ever get rid of it because we're known for our wings and they're phenomenal.
Yeah, they are.
So we'll never mess with them. We'll never change the recipe.
That's smart. So it's kind of like it's like diapers in the store, because diapers, like a Walmart,
We gotta have a better comparison than diapers. To my wings.
No, but hear me out. So diapers, because everyone needs diapers for kids, they don't make any money. Like diapers, if you go into the shelves in the supermarket, that diaper, I can guarantee you, they're paying more than what they're selling it for. But it's just to get you into the actual restaurant.
And then you're gonna buy your formula and your
And you're
baking
gonna go-
powder.
exactly, and that's where they make the margins. So
But
it's kind
also-
of bad comparison, but it's kind of the same. I didn't know this about the wings. Are there any other products? By the way, okay, I have a serious this is a serious question.
Okay.
Why did you guys change the salsa at Old Orchard?
The salsa?
Yes.
That's interesting that you're bringing that up.
Yes, I love Old Orchard nachos.
Yes.
I love them, and the
They're
salsa
phenomenal.
was always homemade. I worked at Old Orchard for years.
Yeah.
And then when I got it the other day, I didn't know this. Oh, I didn't know you guys had changed the salsa, and I took my first dip. My spidey senses were tingling. I immediately saw that there was something different about it. I'm like, what's this? Okay, maybe it's just me. Took a dip, put it in my mouth. I wasn't happy.
I can tell.
I wasn't happy. Why did you guys change the
su-
salsa?
First of all, I love that because that, for me, being with the company so long, I'm going into 19 years with the Orchard Group.
Yeah.
One thing I love about the group is that the alumni really still care. It's almost like if you worked at the Old Orchard, there's like a fraternity to it.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
it is really cool because I don't see that necessarily at other places. And that is something that's like, we've changed small things over time that like it's really the alum that notice more than the average guest because they've been back there eating it for free for so long. So they know the flavor profile better than anyone else. To answer your question, we try really, really hard to still make everything in-house, which is harder and harder with the way the world is going.
Yeah.
But never mind with the way the world is going, the way we're growing,
Yeah.
it's a consistency thing. So my big problem is that I would go to X and the salsa would taste like this, and I'd go to Y and the salsa would taste like this. And it's one of our bigger sellers, right? Nachos are a big deal for us. And we found a salsa that we thought was really good, not as good as the one that's homemade, because nothing's good as homemade, let's be honest.
Yeah.
When we like all like our curry sauces and all that, like we still make that in house because we know we're not gonna be able to find anything that can beat it. Hopefully we can one day because it's all about the consistency thing. I want you to be able to go to De La Montagne, Chateauguay, or all the way to Tremblant, and you're like, oh, close your eyes, you're in Point Claire.
And have the
Village.
same experience.
Exactly.
What's like a restaurant that you guys like look up to with regards to a chain, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a chain, but that's
Shake Shack.
Shake Shack. That's consistently
Anything Danny Myers does. I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan.
I'm with you on that.
What's Shake Shack?
Get out of here.
I'm
You're gonna
serious.
comment on my salsa and not know anything about Shake Shack.
I
Shake
don't
Shack
know
is a
Shake
burger
Shack.
joint that started in New York City.
Okay.
By Union Square Hospitality. This guy opened fine dining restaurants, ended up having like the #1 restaurant in the world, and then went and opened a burger joint. And so it's burgers and fries, and
Is that in Montreal?
Delicious milkshake.
it's not. It's just coming to Canada now. It's starting in
Okay.
Toronto.
Okay.
He's huge. Like I'm sure he's worth like probably close to 500 million or $1 billion.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
He has an unbelievable book called Setting the Table, which I ask all my managers to read. And then he spawned some incredible people within the industry.
What does the book talk about? Like, what's the premise of it?
It's a little bit of like kind of his biography of how he started, but also like his mentality towards the service industry and why he was so successful. So 11 Madison Park, which was #1 in the world for a long time, he opened that. And then a guy that spawned off of him wrote a book called Unreasonable Hospitality.
I've
which
heard
I
a lot about
highly suggest.
Yeah. And that's for I've heard too, for unreasonable hospitality, it's something that you don't even need to necessarily work in the hospitality industry to benefit from it.
No, it just like it kind of, whatever you do will make you better at. Because if you step away from the book, the whole point of it is to be able to live without, like, looking outside the box. And how can I just make my guest at whatever you do feel unbelievable, feel singular, feel seen. And that's my favorite part of this industry, is trying to be able to do that. Yeah, those moments. And doing that is like, and I encourage my managers to do that all the time. If you have an older couple there and they're celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary, they're not paying for a thing that night. And then the ROI on that is unmeasurable because they're talking about that forever. Yeah. So it's not selfless.
And they'll tell 10 people.
Exactly.
Or more.
And then, do you know that Bob and Diane went and they ate for free and they took care of them, they brought them dessert? It's all about experiences. That's what we're offering, right? And with the pubs, we expect you to come here often. And so to thank you for that, for being your home away from home, we got to acknowledge those, whether you're graduating, your son's turning 18, or it's a big wedding anniversary. And it's so small for some people, but it's so big for others.
And this is what makes Joe, right? It's not just that is he encouraging his management or whoever to offer dinner to somebody celebrating their 25th anniversary. You do it in a way where it's just like, we don't need the press for it. We just want to do it because, first of all, it's nice to do, but it's also good for business. Where I find a lot of people, they tend to need to be known as the people that do this kind of thing, as though they're these amazing givers of life. You know what I mean? Like, here I'm giving you this, and this is what I do, and we're so awesome, and you are so blessed for being here. Or it's the other way around. Yeah, it's like,
thank you for being here.
Yeah, this is amazing that you're coming to our place to celebrate your 25th anniversary.
Yeah, and you've afforded me a beautiful life. I'm extremely grateful, and part of that is living my life in a certain way where I can continue to be grateful because of my actions and what other people bring to my life. I have such a hard time with the restaurateurs that pose with every celebrity that come in and then post it on their social. I fucking hate that.
Yeah, it drives me a bit crazy too.
What do you guys hate about it?
Because it's just like, the celebrity doesn't want to fucking do it. You're a bar manager, fuck off, feed me and let me leave. There's not one guy in the world who wants to do it. And it's just like, oh, this hockey player was here tonight. And like,
you guys like here, there's a lot of hockey players that come here.
There's a lot of celebrities that come here.
Huh, interesting.
And if
I've never seen any.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point.
I'm kidding.
But that's exactly what I want you to say.
Okay.
Because that makes us good at what we do. Like, we've had actually pretty big names that have come through here. None of my staff asked for an autograph. No one's taking a photo and putting it on the Instagram. We just don't do it.
I find that because like our place, Looking Out, gets a lot of celebrities as well. They like it because it's in the basement. It's nice and quiet and quaint. I find that it's annoying when people do that kind of stuff because it says to me, you only shine when there's celebrities there. You have a certain level when the celebrities show up. You know what I mean? Like the idea of, again, I want to go back to this 25th anniversary celebrating at your place. I want to see a picture of that on your Instagram because that makes me feel like, oh shit, these guys actually care, right? Not when like some stud walks into the place and all of a sudden it's just like everything becomes different. What, you're doing your job better now? What, that person that celebrated, those people that celebrating their 25th anniversary are not important enough for everybody to be able to celebrate that with them? No, you have to wait for a celebrity to come in. It's almost like they put their ties up and they get back into the job. It's like, oh yeah, we finally made it. What do you mean? Because there's a celebrity in your place, you finally made it?
And without being too shitty, because we're piling on, because him and I share that.
Pile away.
There are places that need that though.
Yeah.
So like, we strive for that neighborhood place where there are supper clubs, whatever you want to call them in Montreal. They need that recognition.
Yes.
They need that, hey, names come here, we're cool.
Yes.
And
like, that's something that
those aren't the places we will go to.
Like, my buddy Zach Maklovich does stuff like that, and it gets.
But he needs to.
He needs to.
It doesn't make him lesser. It's just that's his brand, right?
It is, yeah. And there's a lot of stuff, like, he's a big Instagram, and I'm not. This is his brand. I'm not shitting on him, but it's like an Instagram world, and I feel like the Instagram world in general is very empty.
But he's extremely successful.
Yeah, I mean, he's successful in terms of getting Yeah, he does well in the nightlife. So
You know,
Yeah, but Buena Notte years ago used to have that wall of plates that they would get all the stars
Yeah.
to sign. There wasn't really much Instagram going on back then.
correct. Yeah.
I don't know, just walking in there, that just felt like, I have no problem being that guy. So just so you know, I'm very opinionated, and I know I shouldn't be this opinionated, but walking in there and looking at that wall, it was just kind of like, it felt kind of gross to me. Like what is
I
this?
kind of liked it.
but I like walking into Dam and seeing the wall because everyone's
Yeah.
taking photos with Nona. Like I like that aspect of it. It's again, I find the more I grow older, and especially with my son, it's just not one size fits all.
I just think it boils for me. Yes, and I agree with you there, Joe. It's not for everybody, but it boils down to two separate reasons to go to a restaurant. One, for status, so that you can be a part of a place where all the cool people go, and sometimes you need to have, the notoriety from the celebrity pictures in order to make that the place to go. Or you're going for experience. And I'd like to think that you and I kind of put our most of our attention into creating as good of an experience for the people as we possibly can within our budgetary reason, whatever it might be. We can afford this. We can give that 25-year celebrating couple dinner, and it doesn't cost us all that much. We just want to create a great experience for people. Whereas I think a lot of other places that I just genuinely do not vibe with are. If you can get in here, you're cool. You're cool. If you're here, that means you're cool.
Yeah, you're
right?
somebody. Yeah.
I
I think it also goes with our service package of like, I want you to feel good when you're here. So like we get at the one in Del Montagne, we were getting like the upper brass of the Habs a lot. And then after a game, some guy like posted all over his TikTok, his Twitter, his this, his that. And he was like taking a full video and made like a whole thing about like, if you want to find Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon and Marty St. Louis, this is where they go after every game. And he's like videoing them. And they're just there in the corner. Like they're in like,
they want to be left alone.
they're in the behind the corner just having a beer.
Yeah.
So like, I get you're in the spotlight. I get people are paid a lot. I get like the paparazzi aspect of it and stuff like that. To me, no matter what you do in life, you're afforded the ability to have a beer and just be a dude.
Yeah, and just relax.
So we try to provide that. And don't get me wrong, I get excited and like, when we get the teen parties down here, we get something and if they post it, I'll share it.
Yeah.
But I'm never the guy being like, hey guys, can I get in the photo with you?
Yeah. You got to act like you've been there before.
That's cringy. Exactly.
Yeah.
And also like at a certain point, like even as like, I'm a hockey fan. I was like a crazy Habs fan growing up, but like I'm double their age now. Like it's weird to fanboy over someone who's 19, 20.
And a lot of times people like they forget. I'm 35, but some of these kids, like we were out with my buddy and Caulfield was sitting down, and I'm the same way. Like I'm not gonna fanboy over someone like that. And also, secondly, I don't really want to hang out with him. Nothing against Caulfield. It's just like, dude, you're 21. I'm 35. I don't need to hang out with the 21-year-old.
And he's the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, great guy. But it's just like I don't want to go party with you. You're 21. We're at just different stages of life. I don't want to go to Jet Sky Lounge or something, or wherever he's going to.
So let's
clubbing,
say let's say you walked into that club, and that same 21-year-old Cole Caulfield is there, but he works at Subway. Is he at your table?
No chance. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I never understand people that do that. They're kind of just like they'll invite a hockey player. Or, I guess those would be the celebrities of Montreal because there's no other. Well, I don't know any other celebrities, but
they're the biggest because it's the biggest. Yeah. Thing. But yeah, no. So it's like it's great seeing those guys and like of the older guys I did become buds with and stuff like that. And I love seeing Cole. I love running him in places and stuff like that. But my biggest thing when I see him is to give him his space and do his thing. Yeah. And he's handling it super well and he's a super nice guy. Yeah. But I agree with you. It's weird.
Yeah. No, I agree. How come you guys have never worked together? Or have you worked together in restaurants?
No, we haven't.
You haven't?
We kind of always work together in the sense that there's always conversations of what he's doing next and what he's thinking and what we're doing and what we like and don't like. So there's always kind of like a work aspect to what we do, and the people we hang out with.
I just love the guys. Like it's great to be around him. You know what I mean? Like I don't. Obviously, based on this conversation, you can see that there's a lot of similarities between the way Joe and I think. And so we get along. We could, again, you're walking in the woods hitting a ball for 4 hours and we can get along just, whether he's razzing a mutual friend or razzing me or getting razzed, it doesn't matter, right? We're at that point where
I like that word.
It's a good word.
But it's just, I like hanging out with him. I don't know. I really believe that, and I'm not like, maybe at some point in time I'll do something again. I always got my eyes open, but I don't think that. I mean, doing business with friends, like, I don't know if it's really worth the risk.
I don't know if it's necessary.
Or even necessary.
I would agree with you. I think there's like you're absolutely right. There's it's a high risk, high reward. It could be a match made in heaven, but even then, I find that there's a higher probability that things will go south as opposed to going well. Like I'll give you an example. So right now, I'm working with my dad. To get him out of the business, and to get him out of the business, I need to pile up a bunch of money. I need to get a loan from a bank, and he's retiring. He wants his money. We've been arguing.
I was about to say that sounds horrible,
dude. We were. It's better now. We had like a 2-3 week stint where it's like he wasn't my dad and I wasn't his son. Like we were going at it like business partners, and so we met with the other shareholders, and it got to the point where like, hey, this is. I've always gotten along with my dad, and we're like, this is. We're at a point now where. We're arguing. We never argue. Like we need to figure out something. So we have a plan in place that's going now. But the point I'm just trying to say is, if he wasn't my dad and that was my friend, like, how would that be turning out right now? I don't think it would be going as smooth. I think.
Would you ever talk to him again once he got his money?
I bet you I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's. I'm his son, so he's gonna go like he's still negotiating, but he will go softer on me than if I wasn't his son. Let's call it spade a spade.
I guess it depends on your motivation. Maybe he wants to leave it with you, right? Whereas like somebody else might be a little bit more, I just want to retire. I just want to get the hell out of here.
Well, he's told me many times, he goes, if you were not my son, I would have sold already, and I would have sold to the highest bidder. But there's other things that why he hasn't done that. We'll get into the details.
He's providing you a future, right? Like it's also there's an aspect of inheritance to
of
that.
course, while sustaining his current while sustaining his current living. Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, if that was my friend, like we probably wouldn't. By the time everything's said and done, probably wouldn't be friends anymore.
Right. It's pretty cool that you're open and honest about that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Because a lot of people would keep that under, like, But at the end of the day, that's why I'm saying, like, my answer was that I feel like I already work with him. Because if there is something in business or there's something I'm unsure, like, I have no problem going to him. And, like, our mutual friend is Toby, who owns the Lion Group. And he's someone we talk to and razz a lot. And, like, I think that's what brings us together is our goal of busting his balls, to be honest. But all three of us will always just talk about life and what's going on and how the industry works. And that, like, even though technically in everyone else's eyes they're probably a competitor, but the amount we talk together and frequent each other's places and support each other, like for me, I feel like we work together even though we don't. And that's not only him, that's other pub owners. Like I really try to bring the pub community together.
Yeah.
And like I'm close with talking to Hurley's and McLean's, and I still talk to people who work at McKibben's. We're the same. It's kind of like the gas stations that open across the street from each other.
Yeah.
You still got to, like, you're checking his price, he's checking your price. What are you trying? Like, you still talk, right?
But there's enough for everyone to eat at the same
100%.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I get more information from these fellows than they would get from me. I just think that there's a certain calmness that came over me about, 9 years ago that kind of, I think this is where you and I bond a lot, Joe. The fact that we're past a certain hump in this industry where that status part I keep referring to is sort of, it's not as important. Now we just want to find a way to have a comfortable living. And I think the three of us that you were mentioning, Toby as well, he's got a child of, relatively the same age as our kids. And I just see us gracefully, we ran up the hill like a bunch of goofs, got to the top, and now we're sort of gracefully trying to control ourselves as we walk down the hill. And I think that's one of the reasons as to why we bond so well, is that we know what each of us have sort of been through. We have a good idea, the blender in which we throw ourselves into and hit that fucking puree as hard as we can for those early years of the bar, and then we get to a point where we're just like, oh Jesus, at least we made it out alive.
Yeah.
And now we're just kind of finding ways to comfortably, gently ease into that second part of our life.
Yeah, that's actually a really great analogy. It's kind of like, because a lot of people meet me now, and if you worked for me before, I'm definitely not the same person, which you can vouch for.
Yep.
And I think to go with what you were saying about running up that hill, in this industry, it is a game of king of the castle, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of me trying to get to where I wasn't trying to hold other people back, but it was people who I didn't feel that were on my level. I would definitely kick off the hill. And I'm like, I got somewhere I got to go, and I want to bring this company there, and I like who I work with, who I work for, and like I just had a vision that whole time. And now that I'm kind of just, not that I'm at the top of the hill by any means, but where I'm more comfortable of being where I'm at on that playground, I feel so much better about who I can be as a coworker.
But you'll never be on the top of the hill either. You know what I mean? Like there's always, you think, or maybe you guys, tell me if you can relate to this. It's like when you get to the top of the hill or you get to the end destination, it's like,
There's another hill.
Yeah, there never is that end destination because you do something
or there's somebody behind you with an arrow that's going to shoot you. Because now you're at the front, right? And like everybody else is behind you. You're always looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
That's no way to live.
Yeah.
And I remember the day that when we decided to sort of almost say fuck it with looking out. We're kind of like, oh, there's no way we can maintain this. We cannot keep up with the Joe Beefs. We cannot keep up with like these places that are just, they have much more money to play with. They have staff that want to work there for free, you know, and they're asking $30 an hour from us, so they'll work at Joe Beef for free. We can't compete. So when we came to that realization of just like this, we just can't keep up. But yet we're still busy enough to sustain. So when we just made that decision, it was like, just give them what they want and do it really well and do it consistently well. And once we realized that, like that massive backpack full of rocks is just gone. I don't have to carry that shit anymore. It's just, now it's just like there's people that are so good at their jobs. They're there and they love being there. They love, whether it's a server, a bartender, or a chef, whatever it might be, they love being there because there's a certain environment in which we all were able to create. And it's just a nice, relaxed feeling. I mean, do your job. If you don't, we're going to tell you you're not doing your job, right? Or we may have to replace you. But it's just, there's no restrictions or tension. It's very just light and just, you know, you got to do this for us. And we really expect a lot out of you. So if we're going to get a lot of it, we have to kind of be nice to you. You know what I mean? So,
which is the craziest part of this industry, because the best part of this industry is the people.
Yeah.
And the worst part of this industry is the people. It's the craziest thing about the restaurant industry.
What would you say? What's the most important thing about? What's the secret ingredient to running a successful restaurant?
The people.
The people?
The people. 100%.
The servers.
Look at, I'll take the Old Orchard Group. John is extremely smart, calculated, chose great locations, but a lot of these things don't work without the team he put in place. You know what I mean? Like when you go into somewhere like Kelly's, Cheryl Moore makes Kelly's.
Yeah.
You go see Cheryl, there's that warm feeling. Like I always tongue-in-cheek call her Auntie Cheryl because that's who she is in my mind. Yeah. She's incredible at what she does, but what separates her from, if you're weighing pros and cons of like your team, she's here because of what she provides as a person. And then the people that were at Prince Arthur, that became home to them. And that music culture that followed. And, you know, like it was that neighborhood pub. The Monkland, someone like Nancy working there for 26 years. And you go in and you know everyone by name. Del Montagne, it was the people who were able to serve and push out a product super fast and stay a long time. We didn't have turnover until COVID at Mountain. It was crazy. People would stay 10 years.
That's always a sign of a good restaurant too, if there's not a lot of turnover in staff.
Yeah, that's why the people are so important. Shauna at Point Claire Village.
Yeah, Shauna was there. Shauna and I started working together. Like I was there for the opening. This is back in 2010. I want to say 2010, 2009.
Nine maybe. Yeah.
But funny story. Shauna and I used to go at it at work because we were both very competitive for tips and stuff. So for sections, and we would go at each other's throats all the time.
That's hilarious.
We would always end on a good note at the end of the night. We'd be good.
Shauna, now I know why you didn't want a tip pool. Truth's coming out. But someone like Shauna, I would say she knows 75% of people by name that come in.
For sure. Absolutely.
They know her. She knows their kids' names, who's going to school where, what's going on in their lives, who's sick, their dog's name. So for me, it's the people. Someone like Shauna, Cheryl, Kim Doucette, even people that I've been lucky enough to work with, like Jeff and stuff like that, who some people be like, oh, well, he's more business. It takes all kinds.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Shauna has a special gift too. She has, she's crazy good at remembering your birthday.
She puts it in her phone.
I don't think she does.
That,
Dude,
right?
I don't think she does. No, she has like a crazy thing. Like you can ask. I bet you she knows your birthday. I'm dead serious. You could probably call her up right now. Shauna, when's my birthday? You want to call her up right now? I bet you. When's my birthday?
I think she's away.
She'll probably know when it is.
Let's just text.
Yeah. We'll see if it comes up later. But yeah, just like that's her claim to fame. It's more than that actually. But yeah, so you would agree with that? It's the people?
For sure, it's the people. But I think that once you, I think that we and okay, I'll just speak for myself. I came to a realization at one point in time that, oh shit, I'm in this industry. Oh, I've put 10 years in. It's like, oh cripes, what the hell was I thinking, right? Like, of all the industries to go into, why this one?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be cool. Is that
it's
what
a
it
really
was?
tough one.
But then you get to a place where you're kind of like, okay, so how can I sustain this? Because, well, go ahead.
December 17th.
For me? Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, she has like a crazy memory.
She writes back, December 17th. Don't ask how I know.
Does she know your birthday? Say, when's my birthday?
I'm gonna follow.
Watch, I bet you she knows.
That's wild.
Yeah. Maybe
that's such a weird fun fact about.
Little
her.
different for me because I worked there for 3 years, so maybe that's.
Oh yeah, she celebrated a few birthdays with you.
Yeah,
but it's still impressive that to not just say around Christmas.
No, she has like every one of the staff that Olde Orchard, she would just remember their birthday. Maybe
which is an incredible quality. Way to make someone feel special.
Oh
right?
God, is it ever? Yeah. Where were we just talking about?
I don't know where I was going with
Sorry,
that.
sorry.
No, it's okay. We want
Obviously, this is more important. Joe.
Yeah.
The bubbles are popping here.
I'll wait.
Holy shit!
Let's. She
nailed mine.
Did she? Yeah, dude. It's a crazy. Just text her to say we're on a podcast. Curtis said you have a crazy gift of remembering everyone's birthday. Yeah, she can do that with a lot of people.
I won't quote what she just said, but she said a really funny quote, which I'll tell you later, about how weird it is that she...
Sounds good.
Yeah, so at one point I realized that I was in this industry. It was crazy to think that I'd been able to be in it for as long as I was. I stopped drinking for a long time too, so I got like a little healthier, and I just sort of saw things from a different perspective. But I think that I love it more now than I did, say, 5 years ago. I felt like it was a sort of too much negativity, not as much positivity as there should be.
Do you feel more in control and more confident, I guess, running the business?
In control of myself, yeah, of the way that I see it. I think that's what I was kind of getting at. This idea of like, as opposed to thinking that I needed it to be more or that I was something bigger than I was. Like, that's just silly. It's foolish, naive to think that you literally are in an industry where people are coming in, hopefully, and they like your food, hopefully they like the room, hopefully they like the people. And like, what can I do to help with that? I mean, that's where I'm at now. It's less like, let's do this. Now it's more like, well, what can I do to make it better? Does
it bother you because you mentioned Joe Beef in Liverpool a little bit earlier, does it bother you that you feel you're not on their level?
Not at all.
It doesn't. Did it used to bother you?
Absolutely.
Did it before you had a kid?
No, it was a couple years before.
That's what I'm going through right now.
I had a kid.
Like, yeah. It bothers me a lot, and I'm trying to get better at it. I'm 35, but there's always going to be someone bigger. There's always going to be someone more quote unquote more successful. There's always going to be that, but I find it's like when it just creates envy. I look up to these companies, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm never happy with where I'm at right now, because the company that I run we have to grow so far, and it's just, I don't know,
but if we take
it's not, and by the way, I'm not saying this is not a good thing. I'm trying to work at this to not think like that, like trying to look at your accomplishments.
But it keeps you on your grind too, though. That's why I don't mind it. Like, I don't mind having a little bit of envy in me.
I think my question is, though, what is better when it comes to, like, if we're using our industry, if we're to look at Joe Beef as being the pinnacle in Montreal and maybe even in Canada, what makes them better?
Just don't let it become jealousy, though, is my biggest thing. Envy's okay. It strives for something. It's good to want. It's why we do this, because you want to be able to be part of private golf clubs, or wear Nikes.
There you go.
Or do this. So it's good to want, but just don't let it become jealousy, because then you become shit.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Jealousy is not
resentment for me is like one
Yeah.
of the worst things you could have in the world. And if we start to well, not me because I'm not in that world, but if he started to resent Joe Beef because they get number 1 in Canada, or because Fred's on, you know, Hell's Kitchen or something, well, then we probably wouldn't be friends the way we are.
No, absolutely
Because
not.
it's just a shit look.
But I just don't know what makes. I can't pinpoint anymore what makes them better. So there's nothing, in my opinion, that they do that is like this. They're not like I was saying earlier. They're not reinventing anything. They're just simply putting out a really good product, right?
But they had good people for a long time.
And they still do.
But when you have someone like Vanya and Marco that are so good at what they do and touch people the way they do, and then you can say what you want about Dave, but he was still this character that would come out, and then you have this brainchild in Fred. It was very marketable.
Absolutely.
And they had a ton of fucking cash behind them.
And they didn't
Who's
have
the cash behind them?
I know. Big
Yeah, like I don't know.
Weird.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is that a spoken thing? I don't know if it's a spoken thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
You just you muttered it in.
I just mean, I think what I'm getting at with the Joe Beef thing, I think that even. So there was an incident, and Dave and I used to be friends back in the day. I haven't seen him, so it's not like I don't like him anymore. We haven't seen him. But I remember there was somebody that worked at Joe Beef at the time who said that they were going around saying that, you know, my restaurant wasn't that good. It was crap.
Your restaurant, L'Opinion?
Yeah, L'Opinion. It was crap. I ate there last week and it was shit. I didn't like it. And I remember being, you know, kind of offended by it. Like it would hurt me because like I believed they were the pinnacle, but not because that they were really good at it, because everybody wouldn't shut the fuck up about how good they were. These are just people going in because they wanted to get into a space. But Dave sat that person down and was like, "Don't you ever say that about another restaurateur again, ever again." And like the person called me and apologized. Was like, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean it. I was just whatever it might be." So I don't think that they even really thought that they were better. I just think that they had a certain attention to detail that a lot of people don't have. And it wasn't like, oh, here's your typical, you know, chair that you'd buy for a restaurant and you'd sit in this typical chair. They were like, no, I want that one over there, because I can work with that. It's going to fit with whatever I'm doing.
They were outside the box. They were cool. And even today, like Chris Morgan and the people that Laura, like the people that they have there care, they're fun. They're good at what they do, man. And they were good at milking that media when it came.
Yeah.
So like,
Well, I mean, it's pretty cool when you get Obama and Trudeau having dinner there. That's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, to have like a prime minister and a president, arguably the most powerful person in the world, sitting down in your restaurant. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, of all the places to do it, I'm glad it was there.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I was there that night. So like for me, it was
Like in the restaurant?
so like I always went on Wednesdays.
Did you see Barack?
Yeah, I did.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was crazy just because like it was where I went with my wife on Wednesdays. We'd always go to Liverpool, and like the amount of security
I'm sure.
was nuts.
I'm
Yeah, I was
sure.
across the
It
street.
was nuts.
I'm sure.
Like snipers on the roofs and everything, and
Wow.
and just like they wouldn't tell us why we couldn't have our regular bar seat, but they're like, we can try to get you in. And I was like, all right, weird, okay, cool, like let me know. And he's like, all right, we got 2 for you, but you're in the back, like the side room, not in the bar room. And it's all different now, but back then that's the way it was. And I was like, all right. And then we couldn't get to the restaurant because there's all these black SUVs everywhere. So we had to get off like 2 streets down and like walk in. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And only when we got there, they're like, yeah, Barack Obama and Trudeau are having dinner here tonight.
That's so cool.
So
Yeah.
it was cool. And at the time I smoked, and whenever I'd eat, like I would smoke like crazy. So clearly I eat a lot, so I smoked a lot. So it's like a pack of dinner type thing. And like I'd go out for like just having.
Were you able to? Okay, you couldn't smoke inside at this point. This was after they passed that law.
Oh yeah, like way after. It's not that long ago.
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
right.
5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
When did they pass that law for cigarettes? That was
The day we opened Guard.
2007?
Yeah.
2007, 2008. Because when we opened Orchard at Mountain, you could smoke inside. There's pictures of people like smoking with
just
ashtrays
hacking
at the bar.
darts. Yeah.
Oh, I don't miss those days.
No, going home like when I was bouncing at Cheers and stuff, like you would just stink when you come.
Yeah.
I just remember bus boys walking around with like ketchup cans. Remember those old ketchup cans that you just dump
The ashtrays in. Yeah.
How gross of an idea is that right now when you think about it? It seems so foreign to me that ever existed.
And it's not that long ago either.
No.
Like,
Guys,
I remember
they used to
16.
smoke in hospitals. So
Yeah,
Jeez.
on planes. I
Yeah.
took a plane not that long ago. Still had a
They had the
little
ashtray in it.
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
dude, how old is this plane right now? Like, am I afraid?
It's like that. It's like the Boeing plane there that the door ripped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good. I had a question and I completely forget the question I was going to ask. What's the it's like what's the we'll ask this, like what's the plan for you Old Orchard Group, like, moving forward? I know I kind of asked that question a little bit earlier.
That's kind of how we kicked it off.
At the beginning. But do you guys want to get, because whenever I speak to John, it's cool. It seems there's a vision, there's a goal you want to get to in terms of size. Is it to get, like, just kind of, do you want to have each location more profitable? Do you want to eventually have 50 locations across Quebec and Ontario or Canada? Like, what's the end goal? And I know goals change over time, but
Yeah,
right now, what is it? Is it to just digest all the locations you have right now, or is it, no, we'd like to open up a couple more?
we would like to eventually open up more, for sure. Like I said, we're always looking. It's really hard if you speak to the 60-year-old operator or you speak to the 39-year-old operator.
Yeah.
We're going to have different visions for the company.
Yes, that's true.
So I don't think we're very aligned in day-to-day operations. Long-term future would probably be different because I'm not looking to retire, right? So whether it's I can get a group together that can purchase the company one day down the road, whether it's 10, 15 years, whether we keep rolling like this, and John doesn't need to go anywhere, right? It's a great way to go into the sunset of just, it's solid passive income eventually for him.
Yeah, and
when he does.
John seems to be, like, doing a good job delegating over to you guys, and I'm sure, like you said earlier, it seems like you have a really good team. I mean, you don't get to 10 restaurants without having a good organization.
Yeah, we
organizational
speak
team,
a
so.
lot. Like he's definitely not absent. We speak a lot. Like you might not see him in the restaurants at the times that you go, but he's very well aware of
He's
what
putting
goes
his
on.
input into everything.
Yeah, he knows everything that goes on. You know, like I think also at some points, I don't want to use the word. I'll phrase it differently. I think at some point that he's smart enough and good enough to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things that, like, some people be like, oh, he doesn't care anymore. No, he fully cares, but he trusts the 19 years that I've been with him that I'm going to do the best I can for the company. I never make a decision for Joe because it doesn't benefit me. Because I don't want Shauna to go anywhere, and I don't want because there's no Joe without my team. And I think I got the best team in the world. Like, I love the people I work with. And I say it to you, like, if we don't work well together, it's not about me firing you. Like, you just shouldn't want to work in this company because you should want to work well with me and get along and stuff like that. So we'll work to that. But if it's a year or two down the road and we have crazy friction, it's just, that's not, I see you more than I see my wife. Like, we should want to get along.
I feel, what's your opinion on, because when I usually didn't work directly underneath Joe. I think there was one or two times, and it was funny, we were talking about this where we ran into each other in Ottawa, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I didn't like you when I first met you. So it's like, where was I going with this question?
I didn't.
Is it like, I just want like an outsider restaurant perspective, because you're very strict and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but you're very strict and you're very, like, diligent in making sure you don't fuck around and you make sure people do their actual jobs. But some people can take that the wrong way, and I could see it being like, dude, you're way too blunt and straightforward.
I was way more
like
abrupt back then than I am now. I'm more delicate.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be, first of all, but also just as a person, becoming a father changed me a lot. I'll be the first to say that I wasn't the best to work for a long time because I didn't work for the best people. I had a guy over me that was a yeller who would call me and threaten me, and I worked 75 to 80 hours a week, and it still wasn't enough for that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's no longer in the company. So
he was a yeller.
So it changed a lot. You know, when you're getting screamed at and, like, someone's calling you a motherfucker and all these things, I wasn't strong enough at that time to not let it translate to how I operated. Mm. I took it all personally, and for me, I didn't have the maturity level or self-awareness enough to be like, this is something that I have to stand up for myself. I would just be like, this is because of you guys, so fucking fix it. Where now John is giving me so much rope, and our working relationship is so good that I still get frustrated. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
And,
of course.
I'm self-motivated. So, like, I'm driven because of where I've come from and where I am and what I want to maintain. So, like, John doesn't need to ask me, am I at work today? He knows I am. He knows that I get back from Mexico on a Friday. On the Saturday, I'm going to go check on all the pubs. I'm checking my managers always. I'm always answering my emails. I love what I do, and I need to remember that. And I want to make sure that the people who work for me do as well. And that is everything to do with how I treat them.
And I think that you nailed it earlier when you said that it provides you with a life that you genuinely are grateful for.
Big time.
Yeah.
But not everyone likes me. Like, to this day, I have staff members who absolutely fucking hate me.
Why do you think they hate you?
Because I ask them to do their job, and some people don't want to do that, man. Some people are like, who the fuck is he? I did this, or I did that. Or this is how we used to do it when I worked here. Well, okay, cool. But now you work here, and this is how we do it. There's a lot of victim mentality. There's a lot of like, well, he's just, no, it could be you, it could be you, it could be the next person. This is just how we want it done. It's not personal at all. And a lot of things are taken personal. And I'm sensitive, so I go out of my way to make sure, like, I'm sorry if you didn't like the way I spoke to you. It's just like the bell was ringing, you weren't coming, you're ignoring this. So I was like, hey, you got to come. But my hey might have been a little too loud. And I swear a lot. It's just the way I speak. So sometimes I got to pull that back in because that's not for every audience, right?
Yeah.
And as an outsider, and it doesn't happen often, but if anybody ever says to me, oh, I worked for Joe, it wasn't great. I was like, yeah, it was probably you. Chances are you did not do your job properly.
Or the time and place. Like, I've evolved.
But I know these people enough to know that they probably didn't put in the effort that was required to hold on to this job.
Yeah, I'm also a 300-pound tattooed bald guy.
Yeah.
Like, you telling someone what to do and me telling something to do, even if we have the exact same delivery, still isn't going to come across the same way. Because I am intimidating, whether I want to be or not.
And the best way to describe Joe, at least for me as a friend, is that if my fly's down, he's going to tell me. You know what I mean? And he's not going to really necessarily care. Like, it's just like he wants me to know that my fly is down. Take care of your shit. You know what I mean? Like, and he doesn't mean it to, like, he's not going to embarrass me or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just that there's a way in which people cannot take certain deliveries in which they react too much to it. They feel like they're being scolded or whatever it might be. And I think that this day and age, it's even much more difficult to deal with those type of personalities. But
do you find like the people, so in comparison, because both of you have been in the industry, the hospitality industry for long enough, do you find that people that work in the industry now, so the servers or bartenders or people in the kitchen, are softer than, let's say, 20 years ago when you first started?
Well, for me, we used
comparable.
Yeah.
It's not comparable.
We used to get stacks of resumes.
Well, let's get into this.
But you could pick and choose a little bit more based on someone's experience, and usually that meant that they know the workings of a restaurant bar environment, so they knew what to expect. Now, again, there was a time where there was a lot of shitty people running places, like a lot of shitty people. There are very few restaurateurs that I would consider friends these days that are actually soft, kind, compassionate. Compassionate being the best word, I think, because it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be nice to you. If you're doing something wrong, it's like I'm going to find a way for you to understand it, not just for me, but also for yourself. Let's be honest. If you're texting on your phone half of the night, you're not going to get a very good job, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to find that. So as years sort of evolved from the shitty owners to like the nicer, more understanding owners, where it wasn't necessarily about I want my service to be perfect, because when that superstar sits there across the table, I want to make sure they get the best service possible. It just became more like, this is your job, this is the environment in which you work, and we want you to just do a good job. As those resumes sort of diminished to the point where we're like now calling people to see if they're looking for work, you have to take what you can get, what's available, and with that kind of comes with this entitled attitude. And I'll bluntly say it, I have no problem saying that. With that comes this entitled attitude that they really think that they're doing you a favor more so than us doing them a favor to pay them or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and things have changed. Like, no one would walk off the line before.
Would what? Sorry?
Like, a guy in the kitchen would never walk off the line before.
And that happens now?
That happens now. People quit mid-shift now. Oh, it's not for me, like.
They won't even finish the shift? So it's not like an argument like, fuck you, I'm out of here.
No, it's just they get overwhelmed. And I get it. Like, serving is not for everybody, and it's not easy.
But it's also to the point where you just need to fucking get over it. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. You're not saving someone's...
It's a different world, though, buddy. Like, when we started, including you, like, transgender wasn't, like, this high-profile thing. So that's also a different thing. You can roll your eyes all you want. It's a different world, because now...
The trans stuff.
That whole thing is, let's say you're trans and he's not, and I call you by the wrong pronoun,
Oh, God.
he's the one freaking out on me, not even you. And
I think that comes with entitlement as well, and I think it's.
But
like,
it's a big thing in our industry, dude.
And
I feel like, but it's also too. It's a big thing, but it's also. I'm gonna shut up,
dude. I had a transgender employee who had transitioned from male to female, and they weren't. I don't even know the right vocabulary for it, to be honest. It's not so much that they transitioned as they were like growing their hair out, and they identified as a woman, I should say.
Right.
And they came in and said that they had period cramps and they were on their period and that they were leaving work. I didn't argue.
But this is
correct.
A dude.
This is
a biological male. He was born a man.
Yes, he was born a man.
And
they were
into
born
a girl.
man.
Are you digging over there? Are you gonna dig yourself a hole you can't get out of? Yeah.
Well, no, it's gotten to the point now where it's absolutely fucking ridiculous sometimes.
So they approached me with period
people,
cramps,
like,
and I had to let them leave. I chose to let them leave, and people were like,
well,
why didn't you just say it's impossible? No. It's just some things aren't worth it, and that's the world we're in now. It's just like, okay.
No, but the world that we're in now is even.
It's a lot more okay. Where before it'd be like, shut up and take it, whether that was wrong or right.
Yeah.
But it got shit done. Now it's like, okay.
I think it's beyond even that though. It's like the power that is given when somebody sort of recognizes the identity in which you're trying to put out, and then there's like a bit of control that they take.
Yes.
And that kind of really puts us in a position where it's difficult for us to be able to rely on that employee to do the job that we expect them to do, because now they're
almost looking for you to say something that's not correct. Oh, that you can't say that.
Yeah, and the pronouns thing is hard for like an older white guy.
But it's like, dude, it's
not
like,
easy.
Like, I don't know anything about pronouns. I'm not really interested in knowing anything about pronouns. It's just it's gone way too far, and the fact that this is like even this big of a topic for something that affects 0.01% of the population, whatever it is. It's like I think it's just blown way out of.
Are you taking notes to get this all cut by the company?
Yeah. Don't post that on Instagram.
Well, there's also this like.
Shem knows my opinion on.
I think that
clearly. You know, honestly, I don't even have that much of a negative opinion about it.
Yeah, me either.
I'm very much live and let live. But I think where you get jaded and where him and I are like, okay, well, it's like don't exaggerate it.
Yes,
that's right.
Exactly.
And don't. Yeah. But it's also like on both sides. Why would I care if there's a tampon dispenser in the mail washroom? I just don't give a shit. Like, you want to fucking put that stuff there, go ahead. I don't care.
See, that's where I draw the line.
But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me. If it makes somebody feel more comfortable, then great. But look,
well, where do you want that person who was a female who's now a male to put their tampon?
I can't talk about this stuff. I have to change the subject.
We
could go into this. I got to keep it business. I got to keep it business.
I
got to keep it. I don't want to lend too much of an opinion.
But we're going to a pretty, a realistic extreme. But it's an extreme. I just think that the trickle down effect from that means that we now are at the point where people can be depressed and not come into work, right? Yeah. So if we go from biological male, or however you want to describe, this transitioned, having their period and all that kind of stuff, or period cramps. It's now trickled down to this, like, I'm depressed today, I can't come in.
But see, I'm on the other side of that, because I think depression is a good reason to not come to work. We have to help them get out of their depression. I don't think someone should stay depressed, and not coming to work will probably only add to it.
That's right. I couldn't agree more.
I totally think that you got to get up, you got to make your bed, you got to get out. Mm-hmm. But I think depression's super fucking real.
It is, but depression doesn't show up one day and gone the next.
It can.
Not like that. No, that's a sadness. That's just a sadness. Somebody can feel sad because chances are they were out late the night before, or they're tired.
I'm on his side. I mean, and people need to just recognize the fact that you're not going to wake up every day and feel tip-top shape, and sometimes you got to suck it up and still go into work.
I did preface that I was the sensitive one at the table.
Yeah, no, and I am too. I have this like devil angel thing on my shoulder. But if somebody came to me at work, right, let's just say, it wouldn't matter what it was, and like, I'm just not feeling myself these days, and I'm feeling sad, or I'm like chances are you're depressed. Let's see what we can do about that.
How old are you now?
50.
I think, I knew that. There's a massive aspect to you that both him and I lack, and we probably might not ever get it. You don't give a fuck anymore. And that is such a cool thing to see in somebody.
Comfortably though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like you still care about your certain things that you care about.
100%.
And like obviously there's still masks that you wear that everyone else does, but you will speak openly on anything and not really care about the repercussions of that, which is wild.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
I kinda
Imagine
like
living in that
freedom.
world, business aside or whatever.
I can't wait to live in that world when I'm like 70.
But the problem with that is that people don't let you change your mind. So the thing about Travis is today he might say X about this and then see something tonight or have a life experience and be like, oh, no, you know, I don't feel that way. I misspoke. Or that's how I felt yesterday. But 2 weeks later, the world doesn't allow you that. You said this, it was on a podcast, that's who you are now. And it's like, well, no, I learned more. I evolved.
My opinion changed.
That's about one of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten, by the way. For sure. Like, I
It's
genuinely
crazy.
believe that. Like you
Well, I
can
always
evolve.
I always razz him about being like this Zen master. But there is a
Yeah,
level
you do
that
seem very
comes-
zen.
I try.
Were you always this zen?
No.
No.
I was the opposite. I ran up that hill and started running down until I fell once. I'm like, oh no, I gotta figure this out. When I had a kid, and Joe and I, we also bond a lot on this.
And you said your kid's 9, you said?
9, yeah.
9, okay.
It hit me hard when he started pointing at things, and I'm like, I can't be your fucking dad.
Yeah.
I'm a drunken idiot. I stay up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning whenever I feel like it. I'll do whatever I want. And I realized that narcissistic behavior was just not sustainable. Like there's no way I could be like that.
And so do you think if you didn't have your kid, you'd probably still be living that lifestyle?
Very good question. I really don't
No, you
know.
can't answer that, eh?
No, I can't.
Oh, I'd be dead at 55, 60 if I didn't have my kid.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I was smoking
Calms you down that much?
I was smoking a pack or two a day. I quit smoking cold turkey the day he was born. I was drinking 3-4 times a week, going out, just partying,
Like getting plastered?
doing like what we did in our 20s
yeah,
and
yeah.
30s, you know. I don't drink at all. Like it's so rare. Like I drink maybe 6 to 12 times a year now. And like getting absolutely blackout, like not blackout, but like a solid drunk is like 2 to 3 times a year. That wouldn't have been this. And I never had like, I don't have a vice of drinking. I just like to party. So like I've never drank at home. I still don't drink at home, but I would love to meet people on a Friday night and go out till 4 in the morning. It was a blast. I had good times. I made great memories. The second I had my son, that was all gone.
And you probably didn't even want to.
Don't want to at all. Don't miss it. I nothing.
Interesting.
I don't miss cigarettes. Like nothing. Like I don't know. Like maybe I was.
You never missed like a nice crisp dart on the golf course
0.
when it's.
And these guys will do
All
them
the
on
time.
golf carts. Yeah.
I guess you don't smoke anymore either.
I mean, look, I'll pull one out on a golf course. I know what you mean by that, and it's like one of those things where you're just like instantly going, "Holy fuck!" what
Can we
did I
talk
just
about how
do?
bad you look with a cigarette in your hand on the golf course?
Like me
Yeah, it just
particularly.
doesn't suit you at all.
Oh, me? Really? Yeah.
It's
Well,
just-
I get that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
it's just not your thing.
I'm big into the zins now. Like
And
I'm
you're
definitely. Yeah. You gotta. I like to have it in my mouth when I'm like, for example, if I'm about to take like a driver, I'll have one in my mouth and take it with there and stuff. And sometimes that's when I've. had a
There's
couple.
nothing more white trash than that.
Oh God, it's so hilarious.
I'm not trying to offend anybody
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
white
yeah.
trash out there. Okay?
Yeah.
You welcome to whoever you want. But
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
more white trash than somebody with a cigarette.
And it's hilarious, and I do it to get a reaction out of people. Obviously,
Yeah.
like I don't actually do that all the time.
Yeah, man, kids change you. All that to say.
Yeah.
So your perspective changes what matters. And
we
everything.
get this opportunity, and you know, it might get a little deeper, but we get this opportunity to actually genuinely unconditionally love, right? Would you agree with that? We think that we're doing it right. We think that, you know, we're meeting the loves of our lives or whatever it might be, and we have these great relationships. But the moment that there's a child involved that is yours, you kind of, that whole time, that sensitive part of you kind of like gets switched on. You're like, holy shit, this is like unlike anything I've ever experienced in my entire life. I get to genuinely, wholeheartedly, unconditionally love that little boy. And then you get thinking about it, you're like, fuck, man, this feels good, this feels great. And you're like, well, why do I hate myself so much, right? Then you got to make those changes. So there was no way that I could continue on the path that I was going with a kid. I wanted a child so bad that as much as I tried to think I could push it away, it was never going to work. I wanted to, either I was going to, like what Joe was saying, I was going to be fucking dead, or I was going to be that dad that I wanted to be. So the decision wasn't that difficult. Had I not had that kid, I don't know if I would have been able to understand what that love meant, that we're all kind of drawn to do. Some people, you know, can do without it very successfully and fine. But some of us like, especially I think a lot of the fellas that I know that have kids are not, I mean, the best parts of them are still coming along for this journey. But the stuff that they could leave behind, they've left behind. They know the priority now because it's so awesome to have this responsibility. And when you give into this responsibility, when you get into that being that disciplined dad, not disciplining towards your kids, but just being that dad that shows up on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You have the greatest experience.
Yeah, there was no decision for me. Like, it wasn't like I was calculated, oh, I have to give this up or do that. I for 5 years I've been trying to explain the love that I feel because of my son. I've given that up. I don't have the vocabulary. There are no words. You're just on their level. And so there was no decision to be had. It's like, I'm not.
So it was just so easy.
For me, I have a lot of buddies who didn't get along, but didn't feel that love for their kid. Because at first it is a baked potato, right?
Yeah.
And you're like,
Exactly.
but I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Like, even when the day my son was born, I walked with him in the hall for hours to give my wife a chance to sleep.
Yeah.
And like, from day one, it was just like, he fit right here, and that's where he was.
It was like, I asked my buddy that question actually too, because there's, for first of all, the baby's in the mother's womb, and it's very common, not that I have kids, but where the mother will have a
Sorry,
connection.
the mother's womb, as opposed, like, so you do agree that the father could have a womb.
But I asked my buddy that. I'm like, look, bro, don't take this the wrong way. Well, I'm like, I know you love your kid. I'm not saying that, but I go, do you think your wife loves the kid more than you do? And he's like, yes, absolutely, right now. He's like, I just don't have that
A lot of dads
connection.
struggle with
Yeah,
that.
and he's
A
like,
lot.
and he still loves his kid and stuff. But I was just, I was like, interesting. I go, do
A
you
lot of
actually
dads, it
think?
takes like that first time you can like play with
Yeah,
them or do
and
something.
he, without a doubt, he's just like, oh, absolutely. Like, my wife loves the kid more than I love him right now.
Guys, a lot of guys need to feel needed.
Yeah.
And you're not necessarily needed by that child. So it's up to you to make yourself needed.
Yeah.
And for me, I was just a very active member of raising my son from day one. Like, letting my wife nap and taking him and stuff like that. My wife is unbelievably the primary caregiver. But I was never not there. Ever. It was a big thing for me, and it always will be. It's the fucking best, dude. I can't.
I know everyone.
It's not for everyone, and
No.
like, if you don't want kids, don't have kids. If you
Yeah.
don't think it's for you, take your time. But if there's like a little bit of you that's like, I think I'd be a good dad, then do it.
Yeah, there's a part of you.
Go get the job done.
Get it done.
There's a natural drive to it. I mean, that's to be honest,
With the right person. With the right person.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
with the right person.
Yeah.
I mean, even my situation, like with my son's mother, isn't the most natural of them, But I've never seen her happier than she is right now, ever in my life. She's like this superhero, like, and I'm not trying to, be, sort of like these are roles that are set out for us, all this kind of bullshit. But it's just like the moment he came, much like you were saying about your wife, is that there was just this role that they just kind of stepped up to. The cape went on, they tied it, they fucking did it, and it doesn't stop. Now I get to get in there and do certain things that dads are good at, but like
Without your body being destroyed.
yeah, right.
Like, what women go through, what
I
they
know.
do, like, dude,
I
like the
know.
pedestal that they need to be on. It's a real thing.
It's crazy.
It's a real thing.
Like,
It
my
really is.
my grandmother on my dad's side, even on my mom's side too, but she had 7 kids. I mean, and she looked great. She's still alive today. She's 93 or 94.
Amazing.
Incredible.
But growing up, like, and she was like, all the old dudes, when she was living, she still lives in the old folks home. She's 93 now. But when she was like in her 70s, she was there. All the dudes would hit on her like all the time. And she looked great for her age.
Nice.
She had 7 kids. Crazy.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. But yeah, that's it. All that to say is, I think that brings us full circle of why we get along, why we're at where we're at in business. A lot of it just has to do with where you're at in life.
Interesting. Is there anything else as we kind of wrap up here? Anything else you guys would like to cover before we
We talked about golf.
before we set sails? Yeah, we talked about golf.
We talked about transgender. I think that's about it. We're good.
Anything
Yeah,
else you'd
just-
like to any finishing points you'd like to mention?
Yeah, no,
or-
it's just like, if we're talking about restaurants, it's not easy. I don't think the industry will ever be easy. I think it will only become harder and harder. But it's a passion project. You see a lot of restaurants that fail, and I'm not putting everyone, again, in the same boat, but a lot of restaurants fail because people do it as a hobby project. It can't be your hobby, man.
It's
It
got
can't
to be
your
full
hobby.
pin. It has to be your business.
Yeah, and if
9
it's
to
your
5.
hobby, it's because you're the money guy.
Yeah.
But it can't be your hobby if someone's like, oh, I've always wanted to open a cafe. Well, Starbucks is going to kick the shit out of you every time.
Yeah,
And then you have the people who are like, I always wanted to open a cafe, and they're there at 4 a.m. baking, and they're running their cafe. Those people are going to compete against Starbucks.
Yeah.
Because you feel it when you walk in.
I've had more failures or genuine learning experiences than I've had successes. There's no question about it, and mostly because of what Joe is saying. You either are surrounded by a team that can help you open up 10 places, or you're not, and you can't do more than what's in front of you. And if you think that you can, you're going to find yourself into a lot of trouble. So if you're somebody who can't get along with others, and just either don't or do one. And I just don't think anymore that one is enough to sustain your sanity or the life that you're living, because whether you're the best now or you were at one point in time, I don't know whether the customer loyalty will be there forever. I mean, I am so lucky when it comes to this. I'm fortunate.
Or the money.
Well, the money and the loyalty, yeah, because it's like if you can do what Joe is doing in his group, and you can open up 10 of these, let's say 8 of them are successful. Oh, fuck, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Let's say if 10 of them are successful, you're doing great. Let's say if he ends up opening 50 or whatever it might be, then you obviously know what you're doing. But there's no way they're doing that without a team.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, like, for me, where I'm at in life, my big saying is that life's not hard. And I think that too many parents make that mistake of being like, life's not easy, life's hard, you got to get out there, you got to do X, Y, Z, because it's not going to be given to you. Life's hard. Life's not hard. Life's what you make of it. And don't ever tell yourself life's hard. So if you want 10 restaurants, but you're not willing to do the work, then yeah, life's fucking hard. But then don't open 10 restaurants. It's really, really about
I like
mindset.
that. Life's not hard.
It's what you make of it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you felt that life was hard when you were dealing with your father, and you're like, wow, this is hard. This isn't a good thing. But you're buying company off your dad, and you're going to get it done. Life's not hard.
Oh yeah, like I never asked people to feel sorry for me.
No, and it's not about that. No, but I'm just
not that I am. But
it's that mindset aspect.
Yeah,
it's not the pity. It's the mindset of, like, oh man, this is hard with that. Life's not hard, and I would like, that would be my message for the world.
Yeah, the Buddhist in me agrees with him 100%. There are no good or bad. There are no right or wrong. It's just whatever's in front of you, right? And that's exactly what Joe is saying. He's saying it in a different way. Life is not hard because you can come up to something that's like, that you were conditioned to believe is wrong. But if you look at it from that perspective, you're kind of like, what do I got to do next? What needs to be done? But if you're like, oh, I don't want to do this, and you're backing away from it, and you're like pushing away, like, you're just completely fucking yourself.
Just like, I do a lot more charity now, and like in just like seeing what I do with the charities or going to like a children's hospital, that's fucking hard. Not for me, the lives that these people are living. That's hard, man. Like a kid with chemo.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, that's hard.
Yeah.
But what we got, we're very lucky. We're very fortunate. So just try to remember that.
I think that's a good place to end.
Agreed.
Gentlemen.
Cheers, boys.
Thank you so much. Freemium Podcast. We're out.